Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ring Ready Live, the home of the owner handler, brought to you by Showsite Magazine. I'm Dan Sayers with Showsite, here as always with Lee Whittier, the dog show mentor. Lee, how are you today?
I am well and happy to be here and can't wait to chat with all of our friends from all over the world.
We've got an exciting show for everyone, and as always, we are grateful that you all are here. As always, let us know where you're from. Let us know your breed. And today we've got a special topic on going the extra miles. We're going to be talking about traveling with your dog. More specifically, how far are you willing to travel with your dog to attend the show? So before we get started, I just want to thank everyone again. And just to remind everyone, when you receive our Facebook reminder, feel free to share that with your friends, share it to your page, let everyone know about us. Our community is growing. Your messages and the communication that we have with you has indicated that we've built quite a community here, Lee. We've got a lot of folks that tune in with us each and every week. And we just want to be sure that you tell your friends that we're here. If you're an owner handler who's interested in improving your odds in the ring with your dog, we know that your friends are the same as you. So we'd love to have them join you and join us here each week, every Wednesday. So, again, we're going to be talking about traveling. But before we do that, I just want to ask you, Lee, if you could let everyone know about your master classes that are coming up.
Oh, yeah. First of all, I want to remind you that if you are if you're a member of the Dog Show Mentor program, that this three-part series is free to you. So if you were to join Dog Show Mentor now, then you would also get this free. So that's like 6 master classes in 1 month, and it's right before the new year. So you're going to be preparing for what's to come. So on September 28th, we're going to talk about how you can create your own blue ribbon blueprint. On October 12th, we're going to be talking about ring nerves and are you afraid of winning? Mm-hmm. And on October 19th, we're going to pull it all together and talk about getting a piece of the action. So it's at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And I'm happy to see so many familiar faces. Shari from Minnesota and Tamara with Spanish water dogs. Ray with Basenjis from Florida. And Linda from Ohio with Powder Puff Cresteds.
And Debbie is joining us from Colorado. She has Tibetan Mastiffs. Sounds like a great breed for the mountains of Colorado. Great to have you here, Debbie. And Peg is joining us here on this first day of fall. Peg, thanks for the reminder. And Melissa is back. Hi, Melissa. Nice to see you from Santa Rosa, California, with 3 Irish Water Spaniels. Ooh. And Sharon is here. And Sandy is also here from Oregon with Basenjis. We have a lot of Basenji viewers. That's terrific. It's really great to find out which breeds you have. You know, our viewers, Lee, they represent all 7 AKC groups. We've got some FSS and some miscellaneous breeders and owner handlers joining us each and every week. It's a lot of fun. And for all of you, whatever your breed, I really want to encourage you to join the master classes beginning next Tuesday, the 28th. You will not regret the investment of your time and money. You are going to walk away from those classes with, I can't imagine the information that we're going to learn in those 90-minute classes, Lee. But I know that each and every time that you have a master class, the information that is shared and the communication between everyone in the class can't be found anywhere else. And it's going to be terrific. And as Lee said, there's 3 opportunities coming up. And you will be prepared to end this year ready to achieve your goals and start the new year off on the right foot. So again, thank you for being here each and every week. This is sort of an intro to Dog Show Mentor Program. This is sort of a mini class, if you will. Next class is sort of the interim. But becoming a member is probably, well, it certainly is the best way to take advantage of Lee Whittier. So Lee, real quickly, how does everyone find you and
Uh,
become a member of Dog Show Mentor?
yeah, so you can always go to dogshowmentor.com, or you can email me privately at lee@dogshowmentor.com, or you can private message me on Messenger, Facebook Messenger, because we love Facebook here because it brings us all together as a community. And that's what Dan and I were talking about before we came on here, was how great it is to have interaction with you through the chat and hear about who you are and where you are. And it's not just a one-way conversation or even a two-way conversation between Dan and I. It includes you, and we want you to share your thoughts and ideas. And before we start, Dan, we had a question from last week that I thought would be interesting to address. It's sort of about travel. So it fits in here, and it's a little, it veers off a little. So I hope you all will come with us on that different path. And while we still talk about traveling and how far you're willing to go, is how far are you willing to go? And when you take your bitch in season, how do you handle also traveling with a male? So if you have ideas, suggestions, what do you use? What kind of strategies do you use? Does it help to leave the dog in a separate place? Do you give one of them to a friend? Do you give the bitch to a friend and have them keep it overnight? What kind of strategies do you have? So let us know, as well as we're going to talk about how far are you willing to go.
That's a wonderful side topic to piggyback onto today's topic. Anyone who's had a bitch in season knows that it can bring all the boys to the yard, as a pop song goes. And if you've got a male or two or three at home and one of your bitches comes in season, you know that your life has just gone upside down. And oftentimes the males will go off their food. There's a lot of things to consider. So let us know how you handle that and how you travel under those circumstances. Speaking of traveling, I have a question for you, Lee. I know that you're going to be at Morrison Essex, as am I. Montgomery's coming up. You're going to be in New Jersey judging at Ramapo. But recently you were in Port Huron, Michigan for the Sinclair Kennel Club. So you're traveling every other weekend, if not more often. But that's a really special show. Can you tell us a little bit about that club?
Well, Sinclair Kennel Club is up by the Canadian border. And so it's really close to, I mean, you could see Canada from the hotel. But what made this show really special was it was their 50th anniversary. And they had Gary Sparchu do Best in Show. And he's a lifetime member. He doesn't live there anymore, but he's a lifetime member. And so he brought in, the show chairman brought in a few people who had connections with the club at some point. And the club members, the show chair, everyone made the show so welcoming. The show site is fantastic. It's part outdoors in this gorgeous park and part indoors for the toys, non-sporting, and some of the terriers indoors. So it really is a balance between this exciting show site and this great club, and the club members, the stewards. Everybody worked together to make it work. They have great raffles. I won 2 things. I just want to say I put some tickets in a few of those pots, and I won a couple things there. Everything is donated. The club really appreciates every entry and welcomes every exhibitor, no matter what you're showing, what kind of dog you're showing, or whether you're professional or an owner handler. So yeah, put it on your calendar for next year.
Well, thank you for giving the club a shout out. And I've never been to that show's um, site, but it sounds wonderful. And I'll be putting that on my calendar as well. Thank you, Lee. Speaking of show calendars, I want to remind everyone that Megan will be at Wine Country Shows in Romulus, New York this weekend. She'd love to hear from you. And if you miss her there, you can see her at Morrison Essex as well. So that's Megan, and you can reach her at Megan at showsitemagazine.com. Megan is spelled Meegan. Megan is terrific. She'd love to hear from you. She'd love to help you with your advertising. She'd love to support you in your efforts as an owner handler. So thank you, Lee. Thank you, Megan. And Lee, let's just jump into this topic for
Mm.
this week. So the question is, everyone, how far are you willing to travel? Will you travel 100 miles for a point, 500 miles for a major? Will you travel 1,000 miles to show at a specialty under a breeder judge? Or will you get your dog on a plane and cross the country for the hopes of maybe a group win or an all breed best in show? We all have our goals, Lee. We know that in the Dog Show Mentor program, you help everyone strategize and work towards achieving their goals, and the goals vary. But in a country as large as the US, we have to do some traveling to get some of our goals met. And depending on where we live and depending on our breed, we may have to, you know, get in the car and go overnight. And we want to know from you, how far are you willing to travel? So Lee, can I start with you? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
sure.
Your breed is the Tibetan Terrier. You
Right.
live in the Pacific Northwest. So tell us, how easy is it to find competition in your breed in the Pacific Northwest, and how far are you willing to travel to show your dog?
So for me, there's rarely competition in the breed level. So I will off sometimes the people from California come up here and that makes some points. And sometimes I go down to California and I'll drive. It's 12 hours to the Vallejo site. That's pretty much as far as I'll travel for points. Specialties, I will go across the country. I prefer to Sherpa the dog rather than on a flight rather than drive. That's just me.
Mhm.
And I have a dog that I'm getting ready to fly with, and we will go where there are points because he's good in a Sherpa bag. So it depends on your breed. So tell us, how far are you willing to drive?
Well, Nikki is saying that she's driving to Pennsylvania with 4 dogs. Nikki, we're not sure where you're driving from, but I assume it's a good distance. Susan says that for big shows and specialties, she'll drive or fly. She's driving from Florida to Morrison, Essex. Susan, we hope to see you there. And she was in Colorado a few weeks ago. That's pretty common in the US to be in states all across the country in a few weeks' time. Pam says she lives in Fairbanks, Alaska, so travel is always involved. 4 hour plane ride just to get to Seattle. The folks from Alaska are like no other. And for those folks, getting in a small plane to go to Seattle or wherever seems like it's just standard way of showing a dog. Melissa's traveled hundreds of miles from the San Francisco Bay to Pacific Northwest with her rare breed. Laura loads up her RV and headed from Colorado to Florida for Royal Canin. That's an important show, the end of the year show here in the U.S. Lots of folks go down to Orlando, Florida in December from all over the country. So that is one that folks are willing to travel to. Westminster certainly being another, and Morrison Essex, a show that's held every 5 years, is certainly one that folks are willing to travel.
Well, I recently in the documentary program, 2 members, one was from Colorado and she was going down to Arizona to show, and one was from Arizona and she was going up to Colorado to show. And so they sort of crossed and waved to each other on their way. So yeah, you go where, if you're, there's big competition in your area and you are looking for points, either on the breed level or on the group level, you may have to leave your area. Nikki says she flew to Portland for a specialty in 2019. Well, Nikki, come on back. Come on back. The January shows are coming up. It's the week before Westminster. So you could do some cross-country flying with your dog and make 2 show weekends that are really pretty special.
I just saw a viewer, and I'm sorry I can't see your name, but you've traveled from Iowa to Colorado with 5 Irish wolfhounds. So let's talk about traveling.
Bravo.
That's a whole new experience. So I hope that you brought your help, your partner, your staff along to manage all of those dogs during your travels. Jenna, hello from Philadelphia. She carpools with friends. Carpooling is really big, isn't it, with showing dogs? It certainly makes the travel time go by faster. If you've got a good travel partner, it just makes the drive more enjoyable. Some parts of the U.S. it can be a lonely drive, and if you've got human company, that often helps. Fi is saying, Fi, I think you're speaking to one of our other viewers. This is great. I see a lot of this, Lee, a lot of intercommunication. Some folks are even giving some suggestions for traveling with a bitch in heat. So thank you for sharing those remedies that have worked for you as well. And let me remind everyone that if you've missed some of these comments, you can always go back and review any of our shows and view the comments on Facebook as well. So if you've missed something, if we've missed something, all of us can go back and kind of recap the conversation.
Yeah, Mark says he would drive 80 miles. And so I wonder, Mark, where do you live that you have enough shows within 80 miles? I'm curious about that.
I'm guessing the Northeast or the
Pacific.
I'll tell you, sometimes I live in New Jersey and I can be in 7 or 8 states in a single day. For folks in California or Texas or, the Western.
Well, or the Pacific Northwest, people don't realize how far we have to drive. And sometimes it's how long. Like it's easy to get to Seattle in 3 hours with no traffic from Portland. But if you have traffic, it could be 5 or more.
And let's speak, if we can, to the dogs. If you're in the car for 5 hours, you've got to plan pit stops. You've got to make sure that the dogs are comfortable. You want to make sure that you know how your dogs travel. Some dogs are wonderful travelers in crates. Other dogs, they require a little bit more. It sounds like you're reading a comment or two.
Yeah, Mark says he's in England. So it's smaller. Yeah, that's good. Okay.
Yeah. It's as easy for somebody in England to go to the south of Spain or to Scandinavia, I think, as it is for someone in Portland to get to LA or even San Francisco, I would imagine. Mark, I guess you're lucky in that regard, but come to the States if you haven't already been and experience some of the shows that we talk about here every week. We do appreciate you being here from England, though, Mark. Thanks.
Yes. Some years ago, I had the good fortune of being in the UK, and I was there in June, and there was a series of shows, and I do not remember which ones. There were a series of shows, and I went to all of them, and they were all day trips back and forth. And I would say, about an hour and a half to 2 hours, most in the car.
Yeah, that's a real easy drive for most of us. Denise is saying that she doesn't travel more than a day to get to a show. She's saying she doesn't have a travel partner, someone who enjoys going to go with me. Denise, we need to introduce you to some other viewers in your area. We can remedy that. It's a lot more fun to travel with someone. And Denise, I don't know if you're a breeder, but my experience is that when you breed puppies and they go into show homes, you you can very easily have a travel partner from one of your puppy people. So that's just a little encouragement, a little shout out to those who breed and support the preservation of our breeds. Um,
I see Nikki's here, and she says that, of course, and you're right. It's impossible to travel with a dog that's not a good traveler, and that she starts them young. Absolutely, and I want to say that some breeds are easier to travel with than others. In my experience, Rottweilers had a terrible tendency to be car sick, and none of my Tibetans have ever been car sick. So some of it is breed specific. It might be in some lines more than others. But yes, absolutely. Get your dog used to traveling. Start out with short distances. Start out with, as she said, put them in the car. They can just sit there and just look out or have fun or sit in their crates. So thank you, Nikki.
That's a great suggestion. And I've had an experience, Lee, where I had a bitch who didn't particularly enjoy showing or going to shows, but that was remedied by getting her to travel in a vehicle filled with show dogs. And I think she simply realized how much fun it was for all the other dogs. And she came back from a weekend just, with a whole attitude adjustment. She,
That's
she,
great.
she learned that it was fun. So again, it was more fun for her to carpool, I think, than it uh, just as it is more fun for us.
I think that's a great tip. Yes. And we often use older dogs to help puppies in new situations. If you're going to go to Home Depot for the first time, your senior dog would love to go. And so why not take your senior dog and your puppy, and the puppy can learn from the senior?
Without a doubt. That's when another pair of hands also comes in handy. So one of you can handle that unruly puppy while the other one manages the sedate adult. Um,
So Don says that he travels across BC and Alberta and Montana to get to show 700 miles. Yeah, let's find out who's traveling the farthest by car, and then who's traveling the farthest by plane to get to show. So we've got Montgomery County Kennel Club, not just Emily, but let's not forget Montgomery County Kennel Club is coming up. You terrier people, how far are you coming? Are you traveling by car? Or are you traveling by plane to get to that show? I want to hear from you terrier people, because this is a really important show. I love to go every year. Someone said to me, "Why are you going? You're not judging?" And I said, "No, I'm not judging. I go every year. I've been every year except for 3 years since the early 2000s." And I think that as a judge, I get to see quality dogs. I get to see the best dogs in the world. Dogs and people come from all over the world to this show. And so I want to have my eye set to that level of quality, because in my everyday judging, I don't always see the best dogs. I see a lot of average dogs. Sometimes I'm lucky when I go to certain areas that there are beautiful dogs that really meet the breed standard and shown beautifully. So that's why I go every year, and also to see friends from all over the world. I can't wait to see my friends from the UK or from Australia. Hopefully they'll be able to travel.
that show is especially great if you're a non-terrier person because you can go to that show without your own dog, without having to think about your own dog's schedule, and you will be in the company of probably the world's most knowledgeable dog people, and it's an experience unlike any other.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we hope that one day we'll see you there. Ray has an interesting question that I don't have the answer to, but he's pointing out that with COVID, he's wondering how anyone is able to travel by plane with a dog that is too large for carry on. I don't know the regulations and restrictions by the various airlines in either the US or in other countries. Certainly, I would imagine no dogs are flying into the US. and therefore not flying out of the U.S. as well. I could be wrong about that, but if you have some information on traveling during COVID with your dogs, Ray is asking the question, and we'd love to see. Maybe we've got
Yeah.
somebody with experience who can share some
Yeah,
information.
I have not heard of any travel restrictions on dogs in cargo. Um, and I'm traveling with dogs in Sherpas, and so are a lot of other people on the plane.
I see. We do have a response to Ray's question, which reads, Ray, I did, meaning flew, dog back in the winter, had to fly across the country to breed a bitch after putting it off uh, during the beginning of the pandemic. Thankfully, the trip was great for this writer
Puppies.
and their dog, and the result was positive. So um, that's wonderful. There's no time frame there, but I assume that would happen pretty recently. Um, Margarita is saying that most airlines won't permit chow chows in cargo. There are some breeds
Yeah,
that are restricted for the safety of the individual dogs. If you're flying with your dog, of course, you're putting safety first, and you are counting on the airlines doing the same. Um, and Doreen is saying that Large and Giant use ground transportation. Yeah.
yeah,
For shows like Montgomery, Emily, Westminster, Orlando, um, we all get in the car. If you're in Seattle, you're driving. If you've got 5 Irish Wolfhounds, you're driving.
yeah,
You know, and that's just life as an exhibitor in America.
right.
Uh,
I saw Nikki Higgins said that will drive 1,800 miles. So that's more than halfway across the country.
That's a good distance. Elaine is driving to Texas next year for the Manchester National. When it comes to dog shows, there's all breed shows, those marquee shows, and then there's your breed's national specialty. And certainly for most of us, that's a show that we're willing to drive 1,800 miles to. I know I did that recently. You're going to like this, Lee. Several years ago, I drove from New Jersey to Nebraska. I had a bitch that I'd entered in bred by. I can't tell you what I did to get her ready. She was ready physically, but on the day she saw the judge, an extremely tall gentleman who wore a hat with a feather. And the moment I saw a hat with a feather, I thought, I know what's going to happen. And surely it did. I drove all that distance round trip only to be excused from bred by class at the National. Talk about um, talk about a learning experience. And what I realized, Lee, and I have to admit that you've helped me with this, is that as prepared as I thought I was to show her, I hadn't really prepared she and I to be ready for a tall man in a hat with a feather in it. In other words, I hadn't even considered that I needed to be sort of the rock for her under any and all circumstances. And
Your primary job, your number
yeah,
one job in the ring is to support your dog's experience
and
before anything else.
I didn't do that because the sight of that man in his hat with the feather, it it shook me.
It
And
distracted you, right, from your primary job.
yes,
Absolutely.
and guess
We've all experienced that.
and my bitch, what could she only focus on? That hat.
Right.
So anyway, I say that maybe I didn't achieve my goal, but it certainly was a trip and a travel that provided a life lesson, for me, and not an altogether bad experience for my dog. Anyway, I just wanted to share that. I'm sure that all of you have similar stories. Hopefully, most of them have happy endings. You've driven home 1,800 miles with the points, with the rosette that you wanted, with the titles. Everyone who has achieved their goals after such a long journey knows that ride home is a lot less strenuous than the drive out to the shows.
Well, and if you've won something, there is no drive because you just float home.
You do. You just relive that moment over and over again. Those moments that we all work so hard to achieve.
We only have a couple more minutes, Dan, but I wanted to acknowledge that Ray was asking. He said he doesn't know of any airlines. I know Alaska Airlines flies dogs, so if that's an option for you in your city, that might be something that you want to look into.
That's wonderful plug. Most dog show travelers have had great success with Alaskan Airlines.
Yeah.
So if you're flying your dogs and that airline flies into a city near you, you should certainly look up their schedules. Lee, one more time before we part, a reminder about the masterclass on the 28th, next Tuesday.
Right. So 9:28, 10:12, and 10:19. I'm going to pull it all together and get you prepared and give you a lot of information about how to plan it, how not to be afraid of it, how to plan through it, and pulling it all together with an action plan. And it's going to be fun and informative. So there you have it.
Well, I will be there, Lee. I know that Alex, our producer, is going to be there. Megan, your sales contact, is going to be there as well.
And we've got quite a group of people already. So by all means,
wonderful.
Come on along. It's going to be fun.
There's room for more. So
there is room for more.
You heard it here, everyone. So we look forward to that next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And I want to remind everyone that if you've missed a show or if you want to relive something that we have spoken about today, you can always view our shows on Facebook. You can go to showsitemagazine.com to find them. And if there is something that you missed in the comments, you can always go back to our Facebook page to read the comments, as Lee and I do each and every week. So thank you again for joining us. This has been a wonderful topic. I think we've learned a lot that most dog show exhibitors, most owner handlers are willing to travel to show their dogs. Some are even willing to get on an airplane and fly their dogs. So I know that I've learned a lot here, and I look forward to seeing you, Lee, in your class next Tuesday, also at Morrison Essex and at Montgomery, which is going to be here before we know it. I think in 2 weeks time, Lee and I are going to be on the ground at Morrison Essex, and we may have a time shift for that show, depending on our schedules, depending on our producer Alex's schedule as well. But we hope to see you all there. And for those of you who won't be there, we will be reporting live at some time during the day. So thank you, Lee. Thank you, Alex, for producing our show each and every week. And I want to thank all of you for joining us. We really have built a community here. You are part of our community. And we really do want to meet you in person. So
yes.
Let us know where you're going to be showing. If you're going to be at one of the shows where we tell you we are going to be, seek us out. If Lee's on the judging panel, wait until her assignment is through. Then say hello. Let her know that you're a viewer of Ring Ready Live. Let her know that you read Ring Ready in Showsite Magazine each month. And please do the same if you see me or if you bump into Megan. So once again, thank you. This has been a fun show. Next week, we are going to be talking about the real costs of showing dogs. Some of you may think you're spending X amount of money, but the numbers show you may be spending a little bit more than you think. There are ways that you can cost cut those expenses, though, and certainly strategizing and selecting your shows carefully is one way to do that. So tune in next week when we're talking about the real cost of showing dogs. Until then, thank you again, and remember to always have fun with your dogs. And
I'll see you in the winner's circle. And I'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Sherry.